civilizations of Mesoamerica, the Maya occupy a singular place, still perceived as one of the most intellectually dazzling, most intriguing, and in some respects most disturbing chapters in human history. While Europe was sinking into the early Middle Ages, colossal city-states were flourishing in the dense, impenetrable tropical forests of what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. The Maya raised monumental stepped pyramids, laid stone roads through the jungle, calculated the cycles of celestial bodies with astonishing precision, and created a fully developed system of hieroglyphic writing. Behind that extraordinary intellectual achievement, however, lay a severe world saturated with mysticism, a cult of blood, and an unending struggle for survival. The history of the Maya is a chronicle of greatness frozen in stone. A chronicle that ends in a sudden and still not fully explained collapse. The Maya civilization was not a uniform entity. It stretched across three distinct geographic zones. The southern highlands, the volcanic regions of Guatemala, were the source of obsidian and jade, two of the most prized materials in the Maya world. The central lowlands, covering the Petén River basin, were the heart of the Classic period, blanketed in dense rainforest. The northern lowlands of the Yucatan Peninsula presented a different challenge entirely, a dry limestone plain where the primary source of fresh water was the cenote, a natural sinkhole dropping through the rock to underground rivers below. Building megacities in the central rainforest required extraordinary effort. The Maya did not simply adapt to the jungle, they remade it. They cleared forests, built terraced agriculture on mountain slopes, and constructed elaborate raised fields in swampy lowland areas. The foundational crop was maize, supplemented by beans, squash, chili, and cacao. Cacao beans carried a special weight, they served as currency and were used to prepare a bitter sacred drink reserved for the elite. Maya architecture is the material expression of religious and political ambition. Maya cities did not follow the grid plan regularity of ancient Rome. They grew organically from a sacred center outward. The dominant feature of every city was the stepped pyramid, not a tomb in the Egyptian sense, but an artificial mountain whose summit served as a bridge between the earthly world and the realm of the gods. The tiny, dark temples at their peaks were accessible only to rulers and high priests. The facades were covered in elaborate stucco relief and painted a vivid red, the color of blood and vital force. Rising above the green canopy of the jungle, these towering crimson structures produced on ordinary Maya farmers an effect that was surely intended, the overwhelming impression that the gods were very close. Around the temples extended the multi-roomed palaces of the nobility, built using the distinctive Maya corbelled vault, a false arch formed by progressively overlapping stones. Between ceremonial centers, and connecting neighboring cities, ran the Sakbiab, the white roads. These were precisely leveled stone causeways coated in white lime that glowed faintly on moonlit nights. Some stretched for dozens of kilometers, cutting through swamp and forest to maintain trade and military communication across terrain that would otherwise have been impassable. The most powerful cities of the Classic period each had their own distinct character. Tikal, ancient name Yaxmutal, was a vast metropolis whose temple of the jaguar rose above the forest canopy to be seen from miles away. Calakmul was Tikal's great rival, the capital of the Snake Kingdom, which built and led a formidable coalition against it across generations of conflict. Palenque was the jewel of the Western Territories, celebrated for its refined architecture and for the tomb of the great ruler Kinich Janab Pakal, buried beneath his pyramid in a sarcophagus whose lid, depicting his descent into the underworld, was famously, and wrongly, interpreted by early enthusiasts as a Maya astronaut. Copan, on the southern frontier, was a cultural center known for its hieroglyphic stairway, each of whose steps carries part of a dynastic chronicle carved in stone. Maya society was rigidly stratified. At its apex stood the ruler, bearing the title Kuhulaja, sacred lord. In Maya cosmology, the king did not simply rule by divine favor. He was himself a semi-divine being, the living incarnation of the world tree, the mediator between the cosmos and humanity. This sacred status had practical consequences. Rulers were expected to perform constant ritual, including painful self-sacrifice, to maintain the cosmic order, and their failures were understood not as political failures but as religious ones. Warfare was constant, but its logic was not primarily territorial. The principal goal of Maya conflict was the capture of elite prisoners. The higher the status of a captured warrior, the greater his religious value. Captured kings and commanders were brought to the victorious city, subjected to extended rituals of humiliation, and ultimately sacrificed. Below the king, the nobility divided into distinct functional groups, the Akeuhan, priests and scribes who were the intellectual elite, keepers of calendrical and historical knowledge. The Sahalab, regional governors and military commanders, and the craftsmen, sculptors, and artists whose skill was held in exceptional esteem. The economic base was the mass of farming communities, who paid tribute in food, provided labor for construction projects, and formed the bulk of armies. At the bottom were slaves, primarily low-ranking prisoners of war and convicted criminals. The Maya created the only fully developed writing system in pre-Columbian America. It was a logosyllabic script, combining word signs and syllabic signs, comprising more than 800 individual glyphs. For a long time, European researchers assumed these signs were purely pictorial. The key to decipherment came from an unexpected direction. The Soviet linguist Yuri Knorozov, working in Leningrad in the 1950s from photocopies of Maya manuscripts, demonstrated that the signs encoded actual spoken language, syllables and words. His work, initially dismissed by Western scholars, proved to be the foundation on which the modern reading of Maya inscriptions was built. Writing was used primarily to record dynastic history. On stone stelae, door lintels, and altars, dates of birth, accession, military victory, and death were carved in meticulous detail. The Maya also produced books, screenfold manuscripts made from fig bark paper, painted on both sides and folded like an accordion. During the Spanish conquest, the Catholic Bishop Diego de Landa ordered the burning of thousands of these books, which he described as containing nothing but superstitions and lies of the devil. Only 4 authentic codices survive to the present day, the Dresden, Madrid, Paris, and Grolier codices, containing astronomical tables and ritual prescriptions. In mathematics, the Maya used a vigesimal system, base 20, counting on fingers and toes. Any number could be written using just 3 elements, a dot for 1, a bar for 5, and a stylized shell for 0. The Maya were among the first civilizations in history to independently arrive at the concept of 0 as a positional placeholder, a development that allowed them to operate with numbers reaching into the millions and to perform astronomical calculations spanning millions of years. Their computation of the solar year differed from modern measurements by only a matter of seconds. Their calculation of the synodic cycle of Venus, the time it takes the planet to return to the same position relative to the Sun, was accurate to within a fraction of a day across centuries of observation, achieved without a single optical instrument. The Maya used an interlocking system of calendars. The Tzolk'in was a sacred calendar of 260 days that governed ritual life, with each day carrying its own deity, color, and omen. The Hab was a civil solar calendar of 365 days. 18 months of 20 days each, plus 5 unlucky days called Wayeb. Together, the Tzolk'in and Hab meshed into a 52-year calendar round, after which the same combination of dates would not recur. For longer spans of time, the Maya used the long count, a linear calendar measuring from a mythological creation date of August 11, 3114 BCE. It was the end of one long count cycle, a period called a Bak-tun, that generated the popular panic about a Maya apocalypse in 2012. For the Maya themselves, the completion of a Bak-tun was not an ending but a renewal, the beginning of a new great cycle. The Maya worldview was profoundly cyclical and, by modern standards, profoundly dark. According to their principal sacred text, the Popol Vuh, the gods created humanity from maize dough after several failed attempts, first from clay, then from wood. The Maya cosmos was divided into 3 levels, the heavens, comprising 13 layers inhabited by benevolent deities. The earth, conceived as the back of an enormous crocodile or turtle floating on a primordial sea, and Xibalba, the underworld of 9 levels, a terrifying realm governed by the lords of death, disease, and decomposition. All 3 levels were connected and held in place by the great world tree, the Saba, whose roots descended into the underworld and whose canopy supported the sky. The gods of the Maya were not benevolent protectors. They were capricious, demanding, and hungry. Forces of nature given form, Itzamna, lord of the sky and of wisdom, Chak, god of rain and lightning, Kinichahau, the sun god, Apuk, lord of death. To keep the sun rising and the rains falling, the gods required feeding. The most valued food was human blood, the substance that carried within it the vital energy the Maya called Chiyolo. Ritual bloodletting, Pik-Tok, was a duty incumbent on every member of the aristocracy. Kings and queens voluntarily pierced their tongues, earlobes, and genitals with stingray spines or obsidian blades, drawing ropes through the wounds to collect the blood on strips of paper that were then burned, sending the offering to the gods as smoke. Human sacrifice was also practiced regularly. Victims, often painted in sacred blue, were laid across a convex sacrificial stone at the pyramid summit. The priest known as the Nakam would open the chest with a single blow of a flint knife and extract the still beating heart. On the Yucatan Peninsula in the post-classic period, another form became prevalent. Living offerings were cast into deep cenotes as gifts to Chak, the rain god. Archaeologists dredging the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza recovered the bones of men, women, and children alongside offerings of jade and gold. The ballgame, Pits, was a sacred reenactment of the mythological journey of the hero twins, Hunapu and Zbalank, who descended into Xibalba and defeated the lords of death in a ballgame. A solid rubber ball weighing up to 4 kilograms had to be kept in motion using only the hips, elbows, and knees. Hands and feet were forbidden. Players wore heavy protective gear, because a direct blow from the ball could cause serious injury. The conclusion of the game was frequently ritual. The captain of the losing team, or in some interpretations the winning team, granted the supreme honor of sacrifice, was put to death. In the 9th century CE, the flourishing Maya civilization of the central lowlands underwent a catastrophe. Within the span of 1 or 2 generations, once great megacities, Tikal, Calakmul, Köpen, Palenque, emptied. The erection of stone monuments ceased. Construction halted mid-project. Scribes stopped recording history. The jungle moved back with remarkable speed, swallowing the temples and plazas and reducing them to green hills indistinguishable from natural landscape. Where did millions of people go? This question was, for generations, the central mystery of Mesoamerican archaeology. Modern science has converged on an answer that is less dramatic than a single catastrophe and more disturbing for being systemic. The classic Maya collapse was the result of several destructive forces converging simultaneously. Population growth in the cities demanded food production on a scale the land could not sustain. To create new fields, the Maya felled forests. Enormous quantities of wood were also needed to fire the lime used to coat the walls of buildings. A single major construction project could require the burning of entire hillsides of timber. Deforestation altered the local microclimate, accelerated soil erosion, and caused the water table to drop. Into this degraded landscape came a series of prolonged, severe droughts, confirmed by the analysis of lake sediment cores. Under these conditions, catastrophic famine followed. The competition for shrinking resources drove warfare beyond its traditional ritual bounds. Conflicts that had once been regulated tournaments for the capture of prestigious prisoners became wars of total destruction. Cities began erecting hasty defensive walls, demolishing residential quarters to obtain the stone. As happened at Dos Pilas, where the entire urban core was stripped to build fortifications that ultimately failed. And when the god kings, who had promised regular rains and prosperity in exchange for blood and tribute, proved powerless before drought and starvation, the sacred authority of power collapsed. People did not wait to be saved. They left, walking away from the dying cities toward wherever water could still be found. The collapse of the 9th century did not end Maya civilization. It displaced its center northward, to the Yucatan Peninsula and the highlands of Guatemala. In the post-classic period, new cities rose under strong cultural influence from the Toltecs of central Mexico. The most celebrated was Chichen Itza, where the Pyramid of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, was constructed with such precision that on the days of the spring and autumn equinoxes, the interplay of light and shadow on its balustrade creates a perfect illusion of a serpent descending from summit to earth. When Spanish caravels appeared off the Yucatan coast in the early 16th century, the Maya were not a unified empire, they had never been one, remaining always a constellation of city-states, more analogous to ancient Greece than to Rome or the Aztec Triple Alliance. They were fragmented and at war with one another. Yet unlike the Aztec Empire, which Hernán Cortés shattered in 2 years, the conquest of Maya territory took more than a century and a half. The Maya fought back with guerrilla tactics in the jungle, forcing the Spanish under Francisco de Montejo to contest every kilometer of ground. The last independent Maya stronghold, the city of Tayasal, situated on an island in the middle of Lake Petén-Itzá, did not fall until 1697, nearly 2 centuries after Columbus reached the Americas. And the Maya did not disappear. Millions of their direct descendants live today on their ancestral lands in Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize, speaking dozens of living Maya languages, Kich, Yucatec, Tzotzo, and many others, preserving ancient weaving traditions, farming the same maize fields, and quietly performing rituals in honor of chalk on the summits of pyramids still half buried in the jungle. The civilization of the Maya left behind a colossal inheritance, frozen in stone and encoded in hieroglyphs, that continues to remind us of what human intelligence is capable of, and how fragile that achievement is before the indifference of nature and the weight of human ambition.